awesome. Okay, so hi everybody. This is class number 3, stories. Woo! And it is November 21st, 2017, and I'm with the fabulous Carrie and Shelly, and I am so excited. We were just talking about a desk that can be sitting or standing that Carrie cranks up, and she got it on Amazon.
Yeah.
It wasn't $1 million.
No, it was probably, I think it was somewhere between like $150 or $180, and it's just a white desk, so it can go in any room, and it's extremely functional. Love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just have like a little stool I put on top of my desk because I'm so short, but you know, whatever works. So I just want to acknowledge both of you because you both did your first Facebook Lives.
Yay!
And I want to know how, you know, I know you kind of mentioned it, but like tell us now that it's been a couple of, how was it for you? Carrie, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I've been getting way more comfortable with video. And in fact, today I spent 2 hours shooting video for my newest funnel and for some Facebook advertising. And so I'm way more comfortable doing that. But live is still like, whoo, it's because I had this perfectionist thing in me that feels like, I mean, I remember acting and wanting to get my lines exactly right. And you know, everything perfect from the feel and the tone. And I got to get out of that acting mentality when I'm doing this stuff and be me. And I've been able to do that, I think, much better when I'm just in a lot less takes, and it's a lot more comfortable. And I've been doing that for just my Facebook posts, and I've been putting those on LinkedIn too, and they've been going great. Going live was hard for me, but I did it, and I have to keep doing it.
Awesome. And it will get easier, and every once in a while you're going to feel like, is this my rented tongue? Like, what happened? Like, every once in a while it's like, which is why we're going to warm up in a second. So, yay that you did it. Woo! All right. Yes. Tell us about you, Shelly.
Well, so as you know, I have been struggling tremendously with figuring out just the technology piece of this whole Facebook Live thing. And finally, I was able to get it to work on my phone. Hooray! Although I'm still struggling with the being able to use my computer to do it, which I don't understand because obviously I can do it on Zoom. But anyway, so my experience was the first one I did, I goofed up, so I started over, and it went a lot better than I was anticipating. It was nerve-wracking, and I tended to ramble. It was pretty long, but I did it, and I was really proud of myself. And then I figured out how to share it in other ways on LinkedIn, and I haven't actually finished putting it on my website yet, but I've been working on figuring out how to do that. And so baby steps, right?
But huge.
That's awesome.
I mean, both of you in 2 weeks, like, oh my God.
Well, Elaine, so Todd was, you know, Todd, my husband, you met him and everything. So he and I worked together. And so he told you about my challenges on video. And the great thing is that he will hold me accountable. And after I got done with my first one, and they're like, I practiced, I did lots of practicing, I warmed up and everything. After my first one, he walked in, he's like, you crushed that. And I was like, oh my God, because he'll tell me, which is great. Like, I don't want him to sugarcoat things. He'll tell me, like, this is not good. He's like, your energy, you weren't acting, you sounded authentic, you were exciting. And so, yeah, so I shot 5 videos today. And by the and it was, you know, they're all scripted. They're all, you know, for very specific selling purposes. But Todd was like, he's like, I cannot believe the progress that you have made in 2 sessions with Elaine. He's like, oh my God.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it was so great because I told him, and I told him afterwards, I was like, Todd, when you walked in and we were like, oh my God, you crushed that. I was like, oh, thank God, because I know that he's not going to tell me that if it's not true.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like I'm finally getting this, and I want to be, I want to be out there, and I want to be on camera, and I want this. And so I'm just so happy that I'm gaining the progress.
Well, yeah. Oh my
Lots
God.
of work still left to do, but
There's
tons of
always,
it.
you know what? There's always going to be another thing. Like, I was just getting feedback that I ramble still too much. And I get excited, and then I'm like off to the races. But you guys are doing the work, and I'm just just blown away. Like, what's happened in 2 weeks? It's so exciting. So,
and Carrie, I mentioned this in our the Captivate the Crowd group thing, but I just wanted to tell you how much I'm enjoying your videos. I mean, it's really, really great content. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. That's so awesome.
And I would say both of you, like your first video, Shelly, I mean, that was like, wow, that had me thinking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it is great content that's so needed. So how exciting. All right. Yay. Woo. Celebrate that. Seal it in. Woo. All right. So let's do a little bit of breathing. You can close your eyes and just settle into the chair. And I just want you to take some deep belly breaths. And while I'm talking, I just want you to keep taking deep belly breaths. Really breathe into your back. You can put your hands back there. Sitting up in the chair as if somebody was like holding onto a ponytail. Really filling yourself up. You might be getting a little dizzy, which is good. And then while I'm talking, just start doing a little head roll from side to side. Don't forget to keep breathing. I want you to like get an image of like there's a hula hoop and you're trying to reach the hula hoop with your tummy, like the hula hoop around you. Or maybe you think that you're like pretending to be an opera singer. Woo!
Woo!
Good, right? Woo! Ah, and you can do a couple of shoulder rolls. Hello, body. Forward. And then we're going to do our S breath where we breathe in. Breathe in. Ha! Ha ha! Ha! Make weird faces so you can freak your kids out. Aha!
Occurrence in my life.
Woo!
Oh.
And we'll do our scoops. Oh! Ooh. Oh! Red bumper, yellow bumper. That's a different one. Red bumper, yellow bumper. Red bumper, yellow bumper. red bumper, yellow bumper. Red bumper, yellow bumper. Tricky, right?
Yeah.
And mommy made me eat my M&Ms.
Mommy made me eat my M&Ms.
M&Ms. Mommy made me eat my M&Ms. Mommy made me eat my M&Ms. Over-pronunciating as if you're some dramatic drama coach from the 1900s. Yes, darling. Okay, awesome. And then the tip of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, the lips, the tongue,
and the teeth.
The tip of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, the lips, the tongue, and the teeth. The tip of the tongue, the roof of the mouth, the lips, the tongue, and the teeth. And I don't want you to be scared to spit. Spitting's good. We love to spit. When you go see Broadway, I want to see them spitting. That means they're on their breath. Let me just turn off my heater. Okay. That feels good. Awesome. So any other things you want to report? Did you do any of the connection exercises, connecting with people but not getting arrested?
Well, I didn't get arrested.
Okay, good.
I haven't actually been outside of my house very much this past week because the weather's been so nasty.
Okay.
But I've been connecting with people who've come here.
Cool. And did you notice any difference or any? No big ahas. Okay.
No, not really.
Okay. What about you?
So I love the connecting eye contact. Actually, it's one of the things that I tell people to do who are, and this is something that I did when I realized that I was sort of in my own little world, which a lot of the people that I coach that come to me are living in a very small world where they're very, very important, but they have very little connection with anybody else. And one of the things that I forced myself to do, and now I just do it normally because it's so just wonderful, is when I'm out in public, I try very hard never to look at my phone, and I try to look at every person I can and smile at them. And try to even like say hello. And it's really, really interesting, the responses that I get. And I love that you're reminding me to do that because I don't know that there's anything that puts me in a better mood than going out and forcing myself to give kindness to other people and regard them. And
see them.
And see them. And that is, I think, just such a very basic, but such a vulnerable and such a just raw way to bring yourself into the world.
Oh, I love that. I have to tell you, I made a video, but I didn't post it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to, but I went to yoga on Saturday and then I went to get my eyebrows done, and which I find irritating. Like, I wish I could do them myself, but it's just like, one of those like, I have to vacuum my car, But I was more open, and so the woman who brought me in, she was this young, beautiful Puerto Rican, and she's, said, we're talking about Thanksgiving, and then she starts telling, I said, I just came from yoga because I'm sorry, I'm sweating, I changed, but my body was still like cranking out heat. And so we started talking about Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden, maybe because I was kind of open, my energy, she starts telling me about how she was in the hospital, she found out she was pregnant, and this old lady shamed her and said, oh my God, you're not married, you're going to have a baby out of wedlock. And she said she cried so hard. Yeah, she said she cried so hard she almost had a miscarriage.
Oh my God.
Then she realized, because just brought up all of her not good enough to be chosen to be married, and then, but she realized that God wanted her to have the baby because she didn't miscarriage. And, you know, and I was like, well, maybe being not married is really good. And she was like, actually, I think it is. And I was like, see? And anyway, we had like the most intimate, amazing conversation while I was getting my eyebrows waxed. And I was just so moved by this young woman's like courage and strength. And, you know, and she has her daughter. And I said, maybe it's really a blessing that he didn't ask. And she was like, I think it is. And I said, I'm really sorry that other woman shamed you. And I said, you know, nowadays nobody gets married. I mean, I was like, it's so passe. It's so 80, you know. But like, I was just, again, moved by the profoundness of connection and story.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing.
And yeah, and to me, those are like some of my, because I don't have kids, but like those moments of like humanity like that with a stranger, to me, that is like such a gift, you know, that we can bring and that they can bring. And, you know,
if we could all just do that. I tell people all the time, people want to make an impact, they want to have purpose. And I tell my clients, and is like, you want to change the world, you know what you need to do? You need to go out and be kind to every damn person you meet today. And you need to regard them, even if they're cleaning the streets with their fingers. And that's how you change the world.
Mother Teresa, people say, Mother Teresa, how do I go change the world? She said, go home and love your family.
Yeah.
So great. Well, keep it up. I mean, I think it's fun to notice in any mirror work.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that. Okay.
Oh.
I forgot.
Okay. You know what? I'll make a video of this. I did it this week, and I cried once, but I always kind of cry a little bit. I'm a crier. Okay. Awesome. So
actually, I take it back. What I've been doing lately is when I look in the mirror, and I don't know if this counts or not, but
heck yeah.
When I look in the mirror and I see something that is displeasing in some way to me, and I try to catch myself thinking those thoughts and sometimes even verbalizing them, and replace that with just telling myself that I love you.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love it.
You know, it's, you know, that whole self-acceptance thing has always been a struggle for me. And so I'm really trying hard to.
That's awesome. That counts extra credit. Woo!
For sure.
Have you guys heard of Ashley Graham?
I have, but I don't know who
She's
she
the
is.
full-figured model who was on like the cover of Sports Illustrated. And I'm not exactly Miss Pop Culture, but I really would encourage you when we get off tonight, Google her, because she is a full-figured girl and she is gorgeous and she owns it. And this is the second year in a row where like Victoria's Secret is having their big hoo-ha, whatever the heck they have. I'm so not fashion. And she wants to be an angel, but she's not. But she has made herself fake wings and posted. Last year she did it, and she did it this year.
Nice.
And I mean, she's got some big thighs, and I have marathon thighs. But I'm so inspired. She has followers. She's creating a movement, and it's just it's beautiful to see, and it's resonating.
You know what, Elaine? That I really believe that beauty and being choice. Don't you think? It's really a choice.
But and here's I grew up in the 80s in Dallas, so it was all about outward appearances. And I mean, you could probably say that about every city and every time era. But the message that my brain chose to focus on was Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Oh,
Farrah
yeah.
Fawcett, all these posters in the garage. And I remember feeling, and I was never fat. I even had knobby knees, but my stepmother used to say, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat. So I had what I call a fat head. but that feeling of never feeling enough. And so that's one of my struggles, is to own I'm voluptuous. Even when I was on crystal meth, which I don't recommend, but I was a size 4, but I had big thighs. Like, I'm always like, it's not fair, but it is a choice. But I think people they have to be in a place to realize that.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Because unfortunately,
absolutely.
You know, and this is one of the things I talk about on college campuses about the media. And I'll just share this. You guys both have boys, right?
Yes.
Which can be, it's amazing what happens with them and masculinity and stuff. But I had just done my sex talk at Kent State right after the hurricane, and I came back for this big charity, and I met this woman who was really pregnant, and she had a little girl she was holding on to, and she was like the top designer for Donna Karan, who has come out recently with a horrible attitude. But anyway, I said, when did fashion turn into porn? Like, I missed the memo. Like, because I'm not, I said, I don't understand what is happening. And she said, well, Calvin started it. And I was like, oh my God. And then she said, I know. And then she said, everything is so fragmented now, we would rather make a bad impression than no impression. And I tell that story every time I speak as a motivational speaker on college campuses or to young people, because I'm like, but at what cost? We have American Apparel ads where the girls look like, they're getting orgasms from their socks, and the boys too. They're, so anyway, I get off a little bit, but to me, when you can own, this is me, and you're both beautiful women with so much to offer. So I hope that you can keep doing the mirror work. I think it's one of the fastest ways to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know who Matt Kahn is?
Yes, he's a college speaker guy, right?
I don't know if he speaks at colleges. He's kind of a spiritual.
Yeah. Okay.
He actually lives in the Seattle area where I'm at, but that's kind of where I got that from, is that's kind of what he teaches about connecting with yourself and just giving yourself unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. And
I love him.
I love that. Lisa Medley turned me on to him. I've seen.
Yeah, me too.
But and just one more thing. I feel like it's not just even that we're shamed for our bodies or the makeup, whatever. But like, if you look at it's almost like we're not supposed to be human. Like poopery. Oh my God, forbid that the toilet smells for a minute, because we all poop. It's part of being human. But I just feel like there's always somebody going, okay, we can't smell, we can't have frizz, we can't and at what point do we say enough? So
right.
Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that. So let's talk about story. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you guys are already doing this, but I just, you always want to be thinking of the arc of your story and also the arc of your brand. And, Shelley, you wouldn't come on and talk about capitalism or Democrats versus, that's not your jam. So even if you were giving like a personal thing that wasn't necessarily about nonprofits, you would still, it would be like personal development. And that makes sense. And I recommend, really not getting political on personal or professional. I just feel like there's already so much, and it's just, if you want to say go vote, but I just feel like it's not, I think it can be detrimental in this environment, especially. Everyone is so, so, and I just wanted to share, I had a conversation with a woman named Lisa Cherney, who was, she was running part of the mastermind where Shelley and I met each other, Carrie. And I consider her a really amazing, awesome person. And I said, what do I do? Because I'm very emotional, and I'll have I'm passionate, and I I would rather come from that place than be perfectly, well, you know, and that's what I teach, coming from an emotional thing. And I said, I have been criticized, my emails have been criticized for being too gushy, and I am working on staying more on point on some of my videos, but I said, it's kind of part of who I am. And she said, oh, honey, she goes, I don't write my stuff anymore, but she says, I'll see a billboard, I'll see something, and I'll just call in a blog, or, you know, she'll kind of write, and she'll say, and then I'll tell my assistant, now figure out how this relates to business. And I love that story. And because I invite you, because I know we're kind of doing front of the hand, back of the hand, because I'm teaching you skills and tools, and I'm also saying right from the heart. So my hope is to inspire you to keep sharing and writing like you are, and, you know, just get it out, you know. And I mean, it's absolutely fine to make private videos to yourself, like, oh, this might be funny, or I don't know, let me just record this really quick before I forget it. And then you can come back later and go, okay, oh, I can relate to this about my case study with da-da-da-da-da, you know?
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just capture. Okay. I just thought that was really fun, you know, like, yeah, if you're inspired, freaking write or make the video and then figure out how to make it tie in later.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what, something that I've been struggling with is, because my background is as a writer, I think best on paper or on the computer, you know. So when something comes to me, I need to write it down.
Sure.
So connecting that to verbalizing it has been quite a struggle for me. So if you have any tips on how to do that more effectively, I would be very open to that.
Awesome. So I would, my favorite way is to, you know, if I'm inspired, or, you know, for me, I've done the artist way like a million times. And also, have I told you guys about The War of Art?
It's awesome. That book is
okay.
fabulous.
Okay. Awesome. I've turned on so many people to this book. So for me, creativity is very, like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm just getting downloads and I'm just full of ideas. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I got nothing. Ooh,
Yeah.
The well is dry here. And I've learned, I used to freak out. I've just learned, okay, I just need to fill myself up, and, you know, it's going to come back. So if you know, I would say write, and then put it to the side if you can. And, you know, if you can meditate on it, or what I call noodle, where you're just, or even, you know, pick up the phone and talk to a fellow like, hey, I just wrote this potential blog and I want to make a video about it, and this is what I'm thinking. You know, just sometimes talking it out might help. Or like noodling on it, go for a walk, meditate, work out, whatever, and then come back an hour or two a day later, and then you can start training yourself for, like, what are the bullets? What's the real point here?
Mm-hmm.
And I know one thing I'm working on is I have a tendency to give way too much. So, you know, you might start, if you write a lot, you might think, okay, I can make this into a series, possibly. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. In fact, I created a list to just spew my ideas out onto.
Good.
And started kind of organizing the list in terms of how the content might flow. You know, how it might, you know, it's just the sequencing part of it.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And, you know, like, I feel like you know, we're all learning little things. So I have this other coach who I've been working with, we're doing tapping and stuff. And I consider her like a master coach, and she'll say, well, I have a theory, or I have something I'd like to offer you. Do you want to hear it? And I'm like, yes, please. And it's just so interesting. She asks my permission a lot during the call.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just easier for me to kind of go, oh yes, like I feel like we're co-creating instead of, I have this other friend she's not a professionally trained coach, and she's always like, you need it, and it's like, oh God, like if someone comes at you too hard with something, it can feel like, oh my God. And so I'm trying to use what I'm learning with the coaching to do with more of my teaching. And like, okay, and there's 3 points about this I'm going to go into in a second. So this is what we're talking about, like just having structure to it, which I know you're good at, Shelly. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. So I love that. So, and like those old, Toastmasters saying, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, review what you told them, like, not that you want to do too much of that, but sometimes people need time to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that'll come with practicing too. And again, there's nothing wrong with having little bullet points, and glancing down during a Facebook Live or something. Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
All right, cool. So let's get into some story. Okay, so I love story. I mean, I'm sure everybody does, right? Like, look at the entertainment business. How huge is that? Do you know the average person watches like 8 hours of TV a day, the average American?
8 hours a day?
A day?
Yep.
Seriously?
Now they're watching it on mobile, but they're watching.
Wow.
And to me, that is the power of story or distraction. I mean, there's lots of things about that. But here's what I've been studying story. Like, I've done story my whole life, but I've been studying more about it. And I thought this was fascinating. Most human beings don't live in the present often. We are often worrying about the future or rehashing the past. We're often also like 35 to 45% in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the perfect Christmas would look like, or, like someday I'm going to have the brownstone in Brooklyn or whatever, So a lot of people kind of go back and forth, like worrying about a meeting with their boss and then going into fantasy of winning the lottery, and then I won't have to have a boss, or,
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was a fascinating statistic, and it made me feel better. And here's the thing, when you get engrossed into a story, that can also be called somewhat of an amygdala, not a hijack, but like a capture. The story takes over the fantasy part and the scheming part. So I think that's one reason, because people flip back and forth with their brains. And so that's one reason I think people love story, because it's like it's why, Americans, we love the happy endings. A lot of our movies have different endings in other parts of the world.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Pretty crazy. Hollywood ending. That's the truth. But I just thought that was fascinating. Like, our brains, we love story because it helps us kind of stop sort of flipping back and forth so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever, I know for me, I love to read, and when I do have a story that really grabs me, it's like, oh my God, I got to get back to my book, right? And think about like the Thornbirds, or Who Shot JR, or, so many things are relying on that activation from our brain. Now you may be like, who cares? But this is part of why you need to know, keep working on your story. And think about it. Google started in a garage, 2 grad students from Stanford. Zappos, delivering happiness. Apple, what's his name? I'm going blank on his name. Steve Jobs. We all know his story, right? Basic story. Like, think about every, you know, really successful company has a story about it. Coca-Cola. I mean, this is amazing. There's that, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Noreen showed that commercial and I got goosebumps. And that's from the 70s.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious is now that we're older and wiser, we realize that Coke is pretty much poisoned water. Like, you know, what is it? They say if you need to clean your toilet as a landlord, they say put Coke in the toilet and leave it overnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And you know, it's poisoned water, but it's the most recognized brand in the world, and we associate it with fun, friendship, love, right? I mean, that's strong, powerful story. And they even have like polar bears ice skating. Like, I don't know who does the advertising for Coke, but I do think that they're freaking brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, whatever you think about it. So anyway, so that to me that can be so compelling. And then also, because a lot of us are, not you guys, but you know, there's a lot of people who are constipated emotionally. That's my phrase. I love that phrase.
That's a great phrase.
That
you
is a
know,
great
like
phrase.
their, you know, trauma happened, or their family just didn't hug, or nobody taught them how to express emotion in a healthy way. Like, we get shut down. Well, I think one of the reasons people go to the theater or watch movies so that they can cry. They can watch other human beings exhibit the feelings deep down they wish they could, you know. I mean, a lot of this is subliminal, but like, to me, that's part of the power of story.
Yeah.
And I was in New York during 9/11. I was groggy and I was like, what the heck is happening? I just worked like a million shifts in a row. And then like 3 days later, we had our acting class started its second year, and we were all just like, or like maybe we delayed it. Anyway, like it was like a week after 9/11, and we were all just like shocked and stunned and grieving, and we didn't even know what still, you know, I mean, there were like missing people everywhere. We didn't know that they all had, you know, perished. And so we all come to class, and, you know, part of us, we were like, why should we even bother? And I'll never forget, I had this master teacher, Richard Pinter, and he said, this is the time we need you more now than ever, because you can express the things that other people can't because they're grieving or they're shut down. This is the time more than ever to be an actor and an artist. And this tells them that they won't win, you know. And I remember just the speech, I was like, he fortified us, you know, and he didn't do it for the money. I mean, he, you know, and he said, I really recommend that you all go down there and look. And I never would have done that, but I jogged down there one Sunday and I just looked at the whole, you know, and we were all still in shock. We still didn't, you know, fully understand the ramifications. I mean, I think we're still processing, but I'll just never forget, like, being able to tell stories and being able to speak is really a gift, and it's a talent and it's a skill, but there's a lot of people who don't do it. And, you know, somebody told me a stat that, like, even though everyone says, oh my God, there's so many coaches, there's so many, like, only 1% are doing videos. So it's just a great way to stand out in your market and your niche. So anyway, and I love story too, because think about it, you know, before people could read or write, they were telling stories around the campfires.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were making art before they were planting crops. So, like, to me, that's like the oldest sound is Om. You know, like, to me, it's just such this amazing, rich human tradition. Every time I go into a theater, it feels like church to me. And I always, you know, when I talk to my comics, I say every time you're on stage is an honor, and you have to treat it like that. You know, you have an opportunity to save somebody's life every time you have any kind of platform, whether it's a basement with 2 people in a church basement in New Jersey or, so and that to me is like, it's a sacred thing. So yeah, you guys probably read stories to your boys, right?
Oh, yes. Yes. Lots of stories.
Yep.
Yeah. And another thing I'd love for you guys to do is watch a couple of trailers, like Pixar, like Finding Nemo. Like there's I have to say Disney, I don't love the old stuff because of the misogyny messages or whatever, but like Finding Nemo, if you can get that, Google that trailer, like we see this fish family, we get dropped in, we see this cute little fish family for like 3 seconds. And all of a sudden this thing comes and he's whisked away and we're like, like, how did they make us care that much that fast?
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so I invite you to go back and look, like, to me, that is masterful. Like, because, sometimes I stop watching shows if I stop caring. If I don't care, I'm like, I'm done. My time is too precious. And then, so I encourage you to like watch a couple of those, like, Toy Story, also Mulan, I thought was pretty good. Mulan.
Moana is amazing.
Yeah, and just look at it from a story point of view with the trailer of like, because think about like how many people worked on that 30 seconds or whatever, but it's powerful. So how can we do our own version of that, right? And then did you guys watch any of Breaking Bad?
No.
Okay. I wasn't going to, and then several people kept saying you need to study it for cinematic because I was working on a TV show at the time. And it was brilliant at the time about the way he told the stories and it really was absolutely brilliant and stunning. And I honestly think they should show one of the episodes about drugs to kids because you really see it does not glamorize it. It is horrifying and sad and treacherous, and I'm like, that is the episode every kid should see. But anyway, I won't make you watch that, but it was just fascinating. The characters were so well written because it was like a phenomenon, and it changed the way they're making TV now, the way some of the things were edited and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting if you feel adventurous. The pilot is pretty fascinating. What I loved about it was it did not glorify drugs. It was brutal, and I thought that was thank God, So so you're welcome to do that, but at least do the Disney trailers. And start looking at things that way, because I don't think you guys probably don't watch a lot of TV.
Some,
okay. It's fun to just have a different kind of glasses on.
And then one that always gets me is Up.
Oh, yes. Oh, that book. I will never forget that book. The book.
Oh, I didn't read the book.
The book on the shelf, the Book of Dreams.
The Adventures, the Paradise or whatever.
Yeah, the book that he just puts on the shelf, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just a metaphor for life.
Yeah, and that's a great one because there's hardly any talking when it shows their, like the vignettes. And so, how can we do that with our stories? How can we paint a little picture and then another little picture? And because one of the challenges is we want to be descriptive in a very choosy way.
Yeah.
And so I'll just share this with you. So the last couple of emails I wrote them, and I kind of took a breath, and I went back and I edited like half of it out. Like half.
Wow.
Because this is embarrassing, but part of me was like, I'm just going to do it. I just have to get this out. I'm doing it. I'm like, okay, Elaine, let's try to upgrade that conversation, And, less is more, like in comedy, right? And so, I'm a big fan of, like, if you get moved, do the story, get it out. We can go back and put it aside and, so, and then I just want to share, so Anthony Hopkins, I got to hang out with him and be on this charity thing with him. He reads every script that he gets 100 times, like the ones he commits to, not the ones he's just, maybe I'll do this project. Anytime he's doing a project, he reads it 100 times.
Wow.
And just by reading it and reading his part out loud, the character kind of comes to him. And so that's another thing I used to do with Toastmasters, because I would write my speech and I'd be like, I don't have time to practice this. So I would just get up and say it out loud. And after a couple of times, it was very clear what could be cut, there's something about writing it and then speaking it out loud. So you might try that too.
Okay.
All right. Do we need a stretch? I feel like you guys are like, ooh, you're both yawning. Do you want to do a little movement, or are you just releasing?
Releasing.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, I won't make you do that. All the things. Did I tell you the ant joke yet?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. I spoke so much last week, it gets a little jumbled. So I'm in the power of editing. So and I thought I was so proud of this joke. And then when I found out that everybody has an aunt or uncle joke, I was really upset. But so I said, I'm an aunt. It's expensive. Oh my gosh, last Christmas I spent so much money on my brother's kids' gifts. You know what I got in return? A picture of them in the bathtub. So this year I'm going to give them a picture of me eating my peas and carrots. Me doing my homework. Me taking a bath in the kitchen sink. And it got like, laughs, and it was a good opener. And that I did it for, I don't know, a year. And then one of my comedy buddies, we were just like tweaking things. And so this is what we came up instead. To say in the beginning, I spent so much money last year, and I got in return a picture of them in the bathtub. So this year I'm going to give them a picture of me on the toilet. And it hits every time. Every time. So it went from like, oh, that's cute, to like, bam. And I love to share that. And I have a million stories about joke, you don't want to get too sentimental, but I don't think you guys are there yet. Like you get, like, this is like copywriting and storytelling, and, and you can always do a longer version for your friends or whatever. But I just love to tell that because, like, the power of editing,
right,
can make such a difference. So awesome. And also, so I did a playwriting class, and I was I was rehashing something that really happened. And my teacher would go, Elaine, that's interesting and dramatic, but it's too much. It's too weird. And he was like, the truth is stranger than fiction. You gotta pair that back. I'd be like, but it really happened. He's like, I don't care. And I thought that was a really important point, my stepmother was a whack job, and if she got tired of the dogs that they had rescued, she would have them put to sleep. It was very weird. Or like a minimal reason. And I came home and I was like, where's that? Oh my God. So I tried to tell that as a joke, and the audience was just like horrified. Yeah. Because I thought it was horrible, but that's how crazy she was. So finally I had to change it. I said, my stepmother drank a lot, and she did not like our pets. I came home from school one day and I was like, hey, what happened to Tippy? She was like, I don't know. Someone must have left the gate open. But Tippy was a goldfish. So it's a little misdirection there. But that was that was my version of what she really did, softened up. So, you know, you have poetic license with your client stories and with your stories, you know.
Got it. That's a good point.
And so I'm telling you right from emotional place, but I'm also, you know, you want to be thinking about the arc. What is this about?
Right.
So talk a little bit more about the arc, will you?
Sure. So Stanislavski, and I'll give you a little tiny thing. So a long time ago, you know, before TV, everybody was like indicating and Shakespeare and Ethel Merman, there's no business like show, like before microphone, right? Like everything was really big and over the top. And that was what we got inherited from England, and that's what we did. And then there was this really cool Russian guy named Stanislavski, and he created the method, or he came up with, you know, and his whole thing was human beings, we do everything for a reason. Like, this will be a fun exercise for you, like the next time you watch a movie or a TV show or whatever, people are saying blah, 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 but what do they really want?
Right. So
every character has, like, I need to be loved. I need to feel connected. Like Streetcar Named Desire, right? Blanche Dubois. I've always depended on the kindness of strangers. She is looking for somebody to help take care of her. Like, so a lot of times in real life, like we're talking, but there's subtext underneath. Like you're talking to your son and maybe you're thinking, oh, he would just listen to me. Or is he really going to brush his teeth? Or, you know, I mean, and so the whole idea is that every play has a through line through it, and every story ultimately has some kind of beginning, middle, and end, but it doesn't, you can drop them in the middle and then go back. If you know, like there's lots of things you can do about it, but people don't like to be left hanging. And let's say you're doing a series of, hey, the top, I'm going to tell you the top 3 mistakes every nonprofit makes that you're going to be smart enough to not make. And so then you're going to do some kind of, you know, hooking question to get them going. And then you're going to talk about, I've got these awesome things coming up. And then you're going to do some teaching. And I mean, it's kind of like that problem solution thing, right? So you're going to teach them. So the number one mistake I have seen from 20 years of working with nonprofits is it's hard to give them money. People, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so that is one of the first things I talk about. And this is one thing you can do today, right away. You can take this one action and then blah, 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 solution. And of course, so that's handled. But now something else happens after we fix that hole, you know. And so then you're going to take them to the next video, hopefully. And so, but the whole through line of that is helping nonprofits help themselves get out of their own way. Does that make sense?
Yep, it sure does. Now, let me ask you this. So in writing, one thing that I always try to do to keep my writing interesting is, you know, really varying sentence types, structures, lengths, you know, just keeping a nice variation seems to keep people's attention and makes it more interesting. Does that also hold true for speaking?
You know, can you send me a couple of things so I can look at it?
Sure.
I think it depends. You know, there's a saying, you know, give me an hour and I can do it. You want me to do a speech in 10 minutes? Right? Like, how do you, it's so much harder, right? So I think if you had a talk that kept changing sort of the tone, or it might be weird. And things are very, this is a great point. Things are really different written than spoken.
Yeah.
With humor especially, it's like, whoa, I can make that work on stage, but on the page it does not hold up.
Right.
So I'm asking you to kind of flip back and forth here. So and then I just watched this video with Andy Jenkins, and he did like a video launch like years ago, but he said that every 8 seconds the brain wants a change, a visual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does that in his videos, and I thought that was interesting. Now it's like, I don't want you guys to get too wrapped up in like, oh my God, like I'd rather you be speaking from your heart and making videos, and then, just like something good to notice. So yeah, I would love to see your writing style, just to see more about what you're talking about.
Okay.
And right now the whole point is just, I want you taking action and making the videos and we will craft them as they come out. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, and then, back to the whole story, right? So the basic thing is some kind of beginning, middle, and end. And you can totally change things around, or like, I'm standing on the edge of this cliff and I cannot believe I told my friend I would do this. But let me back up a little bit. Barry talked to me, does that make sense? Like, to me, that's a great way to start. I'm like, oh my God. But you know what? Let me catch you up first. Are you interested? Right? Like, aren't you like, what is she going to bungee jump? Is she going to hang glide? Like, what's happening? Right? So that's the thing. Here's the most important thing. Story has to have some character, and the character can be your skinny jeans that are like, we miss you. You don't take us out anymore. Did we break up? In fact, oh my God, write this down. Ding, 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 ding. Anytime you can make an inanimate object talk, you will get a laugh.
That's a good idea.
You know how your refrigerator calls to you, you're bored, you don't know what to do, come open me up. Look for the magical brownies, you want to open me up. We open you up and there's like, what are we looking for? Little magical elves, right? But like, or your desk is like, please clean me, please. Oh my God, the papers. I'm a fire hazard waiting to happen. Like, can you see how, to me, that's a $1 million tip. Like, right. Thinking about, any kind of, it could be your car, it could be your kid, it could be, you don't want to make like corporations evil. You don't want to get sued, but like, to me, that's a fun, it doesn't have to be man against man. It can be man against nature, woman against jeans, woman against diet commercials. Like, does that make sense? But there's got to be some kind of conflict or it's boring. I cannot stand, my friend has a production company, and every once in a while they send me a movie, and it's like an old person making coffee and then walking on the, like, nothing happens. And maybe I'm totally missing the art of it, but like, I can't, I don't have time for this. Like, but just, so you want it, it's got to have some kind of beginning, middle, end, and not necessarily that order. And there's got to be some kind of conflict, obstacle, then that gets resolved, or at least diluted or something. Or it can be raised if you're going to have them come to the next thing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. There's got to be something that happens.
Okay.
And, you can be as creative as you want, but, think about the basic, Hamlet. Like his dad is dead, and I forget all this stuff, like his mom, and there's poison, like there's all these things to, to be or not to be. That is a question, right? He's depressed and moody, and Romeo and Juliet, they fell in love, they had tribing families, and then all this stuff happens. There's conflict, and it's romantic and it's sad, but like some kind of thing happens. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or like, this is interesting to me, Hansel and Gretel. A lot of the Grimm fairy tales, right? So they're pretty grim.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really listen, like Little Red Riding Hood. So Hansel and Gretel, the original story was they went through the woods, and then they put the lady in the pot who was going to eat them. And then they left, and they went back into the woods. And American audiences were like, no! Like, so they changed the ending. So they made it all the way home. Like, and I'm not saying you have to Disneyfy everything, but there's a part of our humanity, our amygdala, that wants some kind of resolution. Like,
right.
Did either of you see Memento? Don't. I went on a date, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to just kind of chill out and watch a good movie. I was so irritated. It was like told backward. Oh, it was out of sequence, but backwards. There was no resolution. I was just like, oh. So anyway, so those are the basic elements of story. And now we're going to practice.
Woo!
Woo!
Okay.
Does anybody want to go first?
It doesn't matter to me. Shelley, if you want to go first, go for it. If not, I'll go first. I don't care.
Is there a particular type of story you're looking for?
Well, I wanted to see if there was anything that you had, thought about, or you were like, would this be a good thing? Or I can give you more direction. I just wanted to see if anything had bubbled up for you.
I'm just trying to think of something that I could use. Nothing bubbled up specifically.
Okay.
In terms of stories.
And it could be, here's another tip. So Louis C.K., who used to be one of my favorites, and now I'm like all bummed that he was lecherous or whatever, but a lot of his characters, he'll like, oh my God, there was this guy on the plane who was such a jerk who, all of a sudden we have Wi-Fi on the plane, which is amazing. And then it goes out, and this guy's like, unbelievable. And it's like, he's so upset about something that he didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago. and then in interviews, he's like, that was me. Like, he makes it in his comedy act, he makes that like it's another character, but it's really him. And so you are always welcome to use, let's say you had an epiphany at the grocery store or something, but you could make that be your client, Sue. If it's something that you want to share from your life, it's absolutely okay to make it a client or a friend. I think client is better. Because here's the other piece is, even though we are heroes, and we want to establish our credibility, our expertness, we're really the guides. And we are the Obi-Wan Kenobis. We are the Yodas.
I want to be a Yoda. In fact, look.
Yay!
Oh my God. There is no try, only do. Okay, one more quick story. Okay, let me see if I can do this. I have this speaker friend, more of an acquaintance, and she's always been, like 3 steps ahead of me. Beautiful, thin, really thin. Did I mention she was thin? And she studied with Marcel Marceau, the famous mime guy in France. And anyway, and she did Lisa Sasevich stuff, and she spoke on a Jeff Walker stage. And we knew each other from NSA from 2007. And I have the utmost respect for her. and aspire to be more like her. And she's coached and trained the top people. Well, I know that she'd struggled in the men relationship department, and she finally got married. And I knew that she'd gotten married, but I didn't really know who to who. And all of a sudden I get this email. She was married. She married the guy who played freaking Yoda. She married Yoda.
Oh my gosh.
Master puppeteer who played freaking Yoda. Like, how amazing. And they even did like this really cool documentary from all the Muppeteers from Jim Henson. And it's shown at South by Southwest. So that's an impromptu story, but that was my Yoda.
Very cool.
6 degrees from Yoda. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I want you to be thinking in terms of like story, and is this relating to anything, or just and it can be about a client, a student, your son, an epiphany, the most amazing nonprofit turnaround you've seen. It can also be what breaks your heart and what is your like why.
Okay.
Like, this breaks my heart. This is why I get up in the morning. Like,
so here's a story. This is one that I tell in my webinar. I give two stories, two kind of case studies. One that has a great ending and one that doesn't, which is what I use as the reason that people need, that nonprofits need this work.
okay.
So I was working, or I was contacted a number of years ago by the development director of an organization called the Youth Suicide Prevention Program, and for reasons I can't go into right at the moment, that's an issue that is very near and dear to my heart. And so even though I was absolutely tapped out at that time, just, I had no bandwidth, I knew that I needed to work with this organization. So I found the time to do some work with them. They hired me as a grant writer, and I began working with them, and it became very clear very quickly that the executive director, she was a brand new executive director. They'd just gone through a huge leadership turnover and just kind of this crazy turmoil. And she was unable to really connect her people, her staff or her board members, and so she took on kind of that lone wolf role in the organization and started taking on more and more of the work herself, instead of engaging her people and helping to inspire them to step up and help more. So she became more and more stressed out. The more stressed out she became, the less effective she became at working with her people. And so I suggested to her that we needed to do some planning. We needed to do some strategic planning with the board and the staff. And after a bit of coaxing, she acquiesced to doing some planning with the staff, but she wouldn't invite the board to be part of the planning process. So I took what I could get, and we did some strategy planning with the team and the staff, and they came up with some amazing ideas. And with those amazing ideas, I was able to translate that into some really great grant proposals, and we were able to bring in some money. However, because she didn't engage the board in the process, they never took ownership, and and nobody was held accountable for actually putting into action all of these amazing ideas that they had. So all of these things that were promised to the funders never actually were put into action. And as soon as the funders realized that that was the case, they lost trust in the organization. They wouldn't fund them anymore, and funders all know each other. So as soon as the word got out that this organization is not following through on their promises, funding became really difficult to come by. And eventually the organization, this is a couple of years later after I wasn't working with them anymore, they ended up having to shut their doors because they were unable to, or unwilling to engage the board in the process and follow through on the promises that they were making to their funders.
Wow. That's powerful.
I streamline it a bit more in my presentation.
Oh, that's really powerful. Wow.
And the moral of the story is that, because of this, there are going to be thousands of children, of youth in Washington State who will end up dying because they won't have the training available to help them learn how to address their issues. And that's a big problem.
Wow. Okay, I want to bring you in. I don't have an organization, but I want to bring you in. Yeah, no, that's a powerful story. I only have a couple of things to add to it. But I wanted to point something out to both of you because you did an open loop. You opened a loop. Do you know that you did that, Shelley?
No, I did not know that.
So when you said, I came into contact with these people and they do special prevent suicide for teens or youth or something. And I said, for reasons I can't really go into why, this really, really, I can't go into this right now, but this really, really spoke to me or something. Yeah. So my brain goes, ooh, I want to know. I want it. So I got sidetracked for a minute, but it kept me like, and I don't like to admit this, but it's why we're like, I'm not going to look at the wreck. I'm not going to look at the wreck. And we have to look at the wreck. Right? Like it's just.
And I actually do discuss it in my webinar, but my son is home and that's why I couldn't discuss it here.
I would invite you to try it the way you just did it. Because I was like, I want to know. Anyway, so an open loop is where you're like, I want to come back to that. And that, as a speaker, it's really important to say, you know what, we didn't have time to get to that, but I can send you the slide. Like I know it drives a lot of people crazy when people like, oh yeah, I'm going to answer that. And then they never get to it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'd call like a bad open loop. But you didn't make a promise. You just said, I can't talk about this right now or whatever, but it piqued my interest. So to me, that's a great part of storytelling. That's a nuance, but we can play with that.
So what's the difference between a good open loop and a bad open loop?
Well, I think if people are, if you keep making promises that you're not keeping, that's a bad open loop. But if you're making promises like, hey, I'm so excited to be here, and they just told me I have to cut my presentation down to 40 minutes because we're running behind, so I'm going to teach you as much as I can in the short time that we have, and I'll tell you later on if you want to get to more information, so because I talk fast, and I'll tell you how to stay in touch with me, or work with me more closely, and so I'm going to get going, and there's 3 things that people make mistakes about, blah, 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 blah. And and then what if I only cover 2, or if I say I'm going to come back to this one and I never get to it? Like, to me, can be frustrating. It's just like, have you ever been in a place where you can't hear? Like, the sound is off. You're both too young, but it's starting to happen to me where I'm like, I can't hear.
Yeah.
If you watch an audience, they get mad. I can't hear. Like, watch people. People like, I can't hear. Like, people get irritated. Well, to me, that's the same thing. If I'm just meeting you and you're trying to get me to know, like, and trust you, of course you want to give value, but you're taking me on this journey and you make some promises to me that you don't keep. Even if I don't consciously remember that on a conscious level, I would say I think most people register that. It may not even be, they just be like, I don't know about that person. You know what I mean? It may be subtle, but to me, I'd much rather say, you know what? That's a great question, and I am not 100% clear on that. So can I get your email and get back to you? That, to me, has integrity. So to me, a bad open loop is just somebody you don't honor, I'm going to do this and this for you. Or it's all, it's just like, to me, I think it's really important to deliver value every time, and not just have these thinly veiled sales things, which none of us have to worry about, because I think we over-deliver.
Mm-hmm.
But does that make sense? Like, to me, a bad open loop is if you're just, or you're forgetting what you say, or and I get it. I mean, there's some speakers are really old. Like, sometimes there's different things that happen. But does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Or if there's too many, then the brain gets confused. And when we're confused, we shut down. And I have been studying neuroplasticity lately, too, because to me it's related to amygdala and stories. And I think this is fascinating, because what's one reason we like habits? Because it burns less calories. Like, we have certain habits, right? And we all know it's hard to break habits. It's hard to let go of not good ones, and there's so many things going on. But that's why, have you ever driven to a new place and it feels like it took forever? You're like, where are we going? And my GPS smoking crack again? Like, where is this place? And it feels like it took a long time and a lot of effort, right?
Right.
And then if you go back like the second or third time, doesn't it always seem like shorter and easier? 99% of the time? Like,
oh yeah,
that's partly the brain. So it's just like, if you've ever been in a seminar where there's a lot of new stuff, it's like you're full, like, whoa, I can't. So if you have too many things going on for the brain, people shut down.
Okay.
It's like a confused mind doesn't buy.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're doing, we're talking nuances here, but you don't want to have things so simple. So it's good to have people have wake up things, but at the same time, you don't want to have it too much, because if it's too much, people just go, they may say it in different ways, but what's happening is it's burning too many calories.
Right.
Like, that's really, like, we're talking survival reptilian brain. But like, have you ever, like, I made a rant at Home Depot one time. I was like, there are 69 different kinds of mailboxes. No wonder we're all on Prozac. Like, it's too, and so, so I think it's good. you guys, I'll let you see the webinar that I did. And I had somebody help design the slides. And there was one slide that was very jarring. And I got feedback to cut it, but I kept it because it's kind of jarring and it fits with my point. And it doesn't match anything else. I'm sure there's different marketing points of views on that. Does that make sense? So that is, yeah, open loop and story arc. Okay, so yeah, so I just wanted to point out the open loop. That was awesome. And then, do you have a picture of, maybe you don't want to do the one that you consulted, but like Gilda's Clubhouse or whatever, that's closed, or some of them have closed. Like, to me, if you have a couple of pictures of nonprofits that have
shut their doors,
that might be really powerful.
Okay.
Good idea.
Because it's like, and we're gonna, you know, we're still doing you. Are you okay on time and stuff? Carrie, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. So, I want to tell you guys another really, this was what helped me start editing my copy more. So I met Noreen Howard's brother, who helps write her copy, and he's a genius. And he was a writer, and then he got himself hired on Madison Avenue in advertising. And he said he worked for the Mad Men, like, now that they're older, like that's who his bosses were. And he got kicked out of a bunch of offices till one guy said, this is what you have to do. And you have to write like a spec script. Like, if you want to be a writer for TV, you go write a spec script for the show. And that's how you, and then sometimes you start getting coffee for the guy who gets coffee for the director who gets, you know. But anyway, so he wrote this spec thing and they brought him in. So he worked on Madison Avenue, and then he went and wrote comedy for King of Queens and Coach. And now, this was amazing. He reluctantly told this story. He now is a consultant for major lawsuits. And he started talking about this story, and he said there were all these restitution, civil rights things that were happening during Obama's administration, and the church that blew up in Birmingham in the 60s, with the 4 little girls who were killed. Mm-hmm. So 2 of the guys had died, and 2 of them were on trial. And Neil wanted to go help. And the people who were prosecuting these 2 guys were really concerned because it's been so long. They're in their 70s. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things haven't changed, right? And so this is how we kind of got into it. Anyway, so he made things specific. Instead of saying 26 of dynamite, he said 5 sticks of dynamite per little girl.
Oh, wow.
He made it specific. And they were not allowed to use the word murder, which really pisses me off because it was a freaking murder. So he used words that insinuated murder, but they couldn't use the word murder. Anyway, they won. The guys are behind bars. It made me really feel like, oh my God, sometimes justice really does work, even though it's so long. And, you know, I mean, I have compassion for those men too, but anyway, the choice of word, like specific. And again, this is like, hey, I want to lose weight. Woo! Hey, I can show you how to lose 4 pounds in 2 days or whatever. Oh, that sounds more like, okay. Instead of, you want to lose weight, right? Does that make sense? So as we're crafting our stories, you know, another thing I think pictures would add to that. And then also just like a stat of how many nonprofits make it. You know, I'm doing a small business summit, and the stats are crazy. About half, like 543,000 businesses are started every month. And then half of them will be failed by the first 12 months. And then, you know, so that's the only thing I would add, but you tell it really well. And for next week, I would love a totally different story, just to stretch.
Okay.
And, you know, if you wanted to really, you know, you could do an act out.
An act out?
So, yeah. So, okay. So it's like, I spent so much money on my brother's kids' gifts last Christmas, and you know, I got in return a picture of them in the bathtub. So this year, I'm going to give them a picture of me on the toilet. That's one way, right? So this year, I'm going to give them a picture of me on the toilet. You don't have to be that goofy, but sometimes even a little bit of movement can add to something.
Right.
You know, and it can be, you know, just play with it. Oh, this is what I want to say too. Helen Mirren, do you guys know who she is? Like freaking beautiful, in her 60s, British actress.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure if you saw her. Anyway,
I'm sure I would know who she is.
I think she's played Queen Elizabeth. You know, she's just amazing body too. And she's teaching a master class on acting. And it made me cry. And she said, don't ever watch yourself in the mirror. It's all inside. Now, I know we're not acting, and I know I'm teaching you about framing and stuff, but ultimately, when you're really speaking from the heart, you're connecting with your audience, and you're just trusting that the framing is going to be fine, and the lighting is what it is, and, you know. So when she said that, I was like, yes, because I tell people I'd rather you videotape and kind of watch yourself, but when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, other than mirror work, it's too. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So next week, a totally different news story.
Okay.
And send me some of your writing stuff, and maybe I can help you pick.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
Carrie's turn.
Okay. Oh, just 1 second. Forget it was something on my phone. I thought it was something about Daniel, but it's not. So I can go. Okay.
And you guys, you know, I'm recording these links so that you can go back and watch them, or, you know, because I feel like there's some golden nuggets today. So.
Super. Okay. So I have something to show you. I know. So this vase is actually one of the most important things that I took away from the first 18 years of my career. Because this vase represents for me a moment when I realized what making a true impact really is. So I was sitting in my office in Hyderabad, India, and one of my employees walked through the door, this beautiful woman, and I'll never forget looking at her because she's this gorgeous woman and always had traditional Muslim headdress on, and she is just so gorgeous in her face. But she didn't look the same as she usually looks. And I knew that there was something wrong. She came into my office and she said, Carrie, I really need your help. Now, this woman was a staff person. We'd only hired her maybe a year before. And it was hard for me to make human resources, exceptions, and different things for someone who had been an employee for a really short period of time. She'd been a great employee, did her work, was really smart. And she looked at me and she said, Carrie, I can't work in the office the hours that we have anymore. And at that time, our employees were working 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 11 o'clock or even later at night to overlap with US time. She said, I have to go home at 8:00 at night. And I said, Miriam, why? And she said, because my father and my brother, they just can't allow me to be out later at night. Our community just won't allow it. It brings shame to my family. And, at that moment I had a choice, because as a woman from the United States, that seems outrageous that two men would keep this young woman who's smart and doing a great job and wants to do well in her career from being at work. But I stopped and I put myself in the context of the situation. And Miriam looked me in the eyes and I could feel her. And she said to me, Carrie, if you don't help me, you don't understand. I'll never do anything for myself again for the rest of my life. And so I had to make a choice, and I had to put my judgment and my feelings about something that's really difficult for me to understand in the back. And she said, my father and brother, they're going to get me good internet. They're going to get me a chair and a desk and another monitor so I can do my work. They're going to make sure I have a phone. And for people in the US, that might not seem significant, but let me tell you, that is a huge, huge deal. It's expensive. And the fact that they were really willing to be invested in her continuing to work made me realize that I had to do something for this woman. And so I said, Miriam, I'm going to help you. Can we have them give us another month? Can you give me a month to work through this? Because I can't make this change right now. I need to get approvals. I need to negotiate this. I need to negotiate this with the people in the US who you work with. And I need your commitment that if I make this work for you, that you are going to do an amazing job and you are not going to let things fall through the crack. And she said, Carrie, if you do this for me, I'm going to be the best employee you have. And I promise you, I'll work all night if I have to. So we made it happen. And she was good to her word. She did everything that she told me she would do. And when I left India, she came to me and gave me this vase. Which in India is an amazing, amazing gesture of kindness. And it's not an inexpensive thing. A few years later, Miriam had an arranged marriage to a man from Mumbai. And she was letting me know about her marriage. She and I had stayed in touch. And I just thought, oh gosh, well, this is going to end. She's going to have to stop her career. And she emailed me a few weeks later and she said, I have amazing news for you. My father and brother have convinced my new husband to move to Hyderabad so I can keep my job. You don't know how significant that is for that area of the world. Miriam has a daughter now. And that little girl will grow up seeing her mom work. We live in an amazingly complex world. Sometimes the contexts that we're familiar with and the things that we think are right, they just don't fit. And when I look at this, I'm reminded that I need to be in the moment and I need to feel the other person and to do what I can to do the best with the situation. This face reminds me about purpose every day and making a real impact.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, I got a little bit emotional. Every time I tell that story, it's like I just can't.
I mean, I know this much about Indian culture, and the fact that she was able to she could ask you that her father and brother were willing to help, and then talk to her husband. Like,
oh, it's unbelievable. And she has a daughter, and that little girl is going to grow up in a completely different world than Miriam did.
wow.
That's amazing.
I was gonna make a crack about the face. Wow.
Yeah, I've got to practice it and tighten it up and not get so emotional. But I've wanted to tell that story for a long time, and I've been working on it, and I've been formulating it and sort of marinating over it. And I've got to, like I said, I've got to tighten it up, and I've got to work on not getting so emotional. But it's to me, it's just,
well, here's the thing. I think when you do this live for when you're keynoting and stuff, I want you to get emotional. I think it's okay if you get a little choked up, honestly, because it's just so hard. I mean, we felt you. We were with you. I saw the desk. I saw the little hut, and I saw it. And I've seen pictures of really young women in arranged marriage. You know, like I've seen. You know, that was really powerful.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, both of them are, and yeah, I think sometimes that's one of the challenges. Sometimes you work on a story so much that it can lose a little bit of its oomph, you know, but that's why I think it's always good to kind of revisit with it. And I think of a good story as like a pot of soup. Sometimes it's got to simmer. Sometimes you got to heat it, turn it up and stir it a little bit, add a little bit more spice or salt. But sometimes I would work on monologues and then put them to the side and then bring it back after a couple of weeks. And I was like, whoa, you know?
Right.
So really great work. So next week, we're going to be talking about story again. And I want to ask you guys, because I want to help you. Do you want help with content creation? Like helping, do you want to make a list of stories and you can kind of like bullet them? Like what would be the most helpful?
For me, I feel like I have so many stories, and for so long in my career, I haven't been able to be myself. And I feel like I'm finally giving myself permission to do that. I could use some very, critical, when you're listening to my story, critical critique of how, where am I losing you? Where am I giving too much? Where am I not giving enough? Am I bringing out enough of the elements? Was, to me, I hope that Miriam was the hero of that story. And I was just this person that was facilitating, and I was willing to facilitate that. And so it's like, I would love like real critical, Carrie, to tell a better story, to be more effective, to grab me more, do this.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the past, I just want to, provide as much value as possible. Now that you said that, I do think you said I'm sitting in my office and this woman came in and she just started working for me. I think we get, like, you don't have to explain.
Right. Okay.
She just started working for me, and she's worked for me for like a minute, and now she's asking for special da-da-da. That, we get it.
Right.
You don't have to go. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. That's very helpful.
Awesome. But yeah. So do you want to send me videos this week, or I'm just trying to think about how we can make the most of next week with story? If we can focus on, like maybe you could send me like, okay, I have a story about, Todd, and this happened, this happened, this happened, or.
Right. Sure. I don't know. And Shelley, what do you think?
I agree. I think that it would be really helpful to have uh, some constructive criticism in maybe if we did some more practice videos and then we could go through them and kind of critique them.
That's a great idea.
I love it.
Maybe we do maybe each of us does a few stories and we post them in the Facebook group and we all look at them and we come and it's like, we're not trying to be mean or overly critical. It's just, but we're here to work. And so,
I love it. No,
I'm totally open.
Okay, I love that because that's what we did last time. And a couple people were posting all the time, but we learned from all of it. And it's good practice to, like you're speaking from the heart. You're like, oh, somebody's going to be watching that. I love that.
Yeah.
In fact, I will post the story that I did that was kind of rambling and I was really tired, because I think there's some good points and then there's some like, I would not want to post this live, but you know what I mean? Like, I think we can learn from all of that. I love that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. And then, so let's do that. And then also I invite you to start making a list of other stories, of other clients you've helped, of other people where you were touched. And I just want you to, start this list. It's going to be like your master list. And it's, Miriam, purpose. The people who, the lone wolf. Like, I bet there's a theme of lone wolves.
Oh, yes.
Right?
It's a common issue.
Okay. So, So, what's cool with content creation? So you could have one through line, maybe a series of videos all about the lone wolf issue.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
And then maybe the next week you could talk about one specific lone wolf who you helped. Okay. And then maybe the following week you talk about a lone wolf who wouldn't listen. But does that make sense? Like because to me that's like rich.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun is like, you work on one story and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about, this wasn't a lone wolf. This was the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, or whatever. Like these were like, the Three Stooges. They wouldn't listen to each other and they kept bouncing off of each other and there was animosity or, So I just invite you to, even if, just bullet it, but get it out on paper or computer so you can start, okay, awesome. Oh, this person. Oh, this person. Oh, this person. Even if you're not sure what it's about, start tracking that.
Okay.
Because that is the beginning of your content creation.
Mm-hmm.
Yay! Well, this was magical. Did you have a question?
What time do you want to have the call next week? And then the following week on the 5th, I have something that evening and I can't do a call then. Next week, I'm totally flexible, I think.
Could you guys do 5 o'clock my time, which would be
5 o'clock my time?
5 o'clock our time, which would be 2 o'clock your time?
Are we talking next week or the week after that?
Next week is the 28th, right?
Yep, that works for me.
So 5 o'clock your time, which would be 2 o'clock my time?
Yes.
Yep, that works. I actually, I just moved a dentist appointment that was scheduled at that time to tomorrow, so I'm totally
okay. Perfect. Okay, and then we can change the date. So Tuesday the 5th, December 5th.
Yes, that's the date that I am. I have something that I cannot change, and it's like all afternoon, evening. But any other days that week would be fine with me.
Would you want to do it earlier that day, or would you prefer?
I would prefer to leave that day completely free, but the other days I'm very flexible.
Okay. How about Monday the 4th? What does that look like?
Yeah, that would be good. I can do that. Oh, you know what? Let me just check one thing. Let me check one thing. Yeah, I could do the 4th, Monday the 4th. Except for I
Shelley?
can't do
I-
too late at night.
Yeah, depends on the time. I have a variety of things
Okay.
throughout the day.
Wednesday the 6th and Thursday the 7th are like really, really free.
Would Wednesday the 6th be better for you, Shelley?
There's less on my plate on Wednesdays, yes.
Okay. So what if we did 4 o'clock on Wednesday?
Or so
Which
that'd
would be 1 o'clock your time?
Let's see. Yeah, that would work for me.
Cool.
Okay. So 4 o'clock Wednesday, December 6th.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for reminding us of that. Okay, so we're all going to post practice stories in the group
Yep.
and start our story list.
Sounds good.
By the way, I promised that I would start doing regular weekly Facebook Lives on Mondays at 11:30 my time.
Woohoo!
And I think I'm going to do them. I'm going to try to I'm trying to figure out if I'm doing them Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do them at 3 or 4. So I'm trying to figure that out. But yeah.
Okay, so wait, so Mondays 11:30, which will be 2:30?
2:30 your time.
Okay. And you're still figuring if it's going to be Tuesdays or Wednesdays? Carrie?
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do Tuesday or Wednesday. Because I remember you said that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are sort of like the best. I'm trying to figure out what time would be the best.
Well, and then my mentor today, she does Facebook Lives every Monday and Wednesday. So I think ideally, I mean, in a perfect world, we have our content and we're like Facebook Living, and then maybe we're doing, we're adding other things and putting people into our funnel towards our free webinar that then leads them to the,
Right.
But I'm so proud of this. So awesome.
You guys are awesome. I'm so excited about this.
This is so exciting. And you know what? I just want to say, like, let yourself play around with it. It's like, to me, it's like working out. You know how some days you're like, woohoo, I had a great workout. And other days you're like, I just sucked ass today.
Phone it in, yeah.
I could not breathe. I don't know what happened. I forgot what was my right and my left. Like, so just give yourself permission to like walk around, just like play with your stuff, and it might be uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's like a new thing you're trying on.
Sounds good.
So awesome. Okay, what is one thing you're taking away, Shelley?
One thing I'm taking away, just the whole storytelling kind of structure, I think, which is something I have to work on.
I don't know. You did pretty good with the one you've already worked on. So awesome.
Yeah, I just really need to do more incorporating stories into the lessons that I teach.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Carrie?
I love stories, and I want to become really awesome at stories, and I need to practice a lot.
Awesome.
And I'm excited about it, but I need to practice a lot.
I don't know. That was pretty darn good.
Yeah. you know, one thing I really noticed is you really took your time. Like it was a nice pacing.
Was it, or was it too slow? Sometimes I'm too slow.
I thought it was a nice pacing. I invite you, you know, once I can, you know, go back and watch this.
Okay.
And I think, Shelly, I think that because I've seen that story before a little bit. I think you maybe were a little inhibited because your son's home, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna encourage you to like be over the top a little bit. Channel your Betty Davis or your Bette Midler, or, you know, because we can always pull back a little bit. Well,
Okay.
awesome. I'm totally inspired by both of you, and I've been like bragging about you, and I can't wait to see more practice videos, and you know, it's awesome. And it's just like, yeah, just, you know, have compassion for yourself, and it's absolutely okay to put your bloopers up, and or, you know, like be like, Elaine, I don't know about this one. You know, I feel like this is a good story. You know, a lot of times when I go to open mics, I'm like, is this funny? I don't know. So I wrote this today, or like I have half-baked jokes, you know, like that's part of working it out.
Right. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
You
All
guys
right,
rock.
ladies.
Happy Thanksgiving. Love you
You
guys.
too. Have an awesome
work.
holiday.
You too.
Okay. I'll send you the recording a little bit later. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Love you.